Welcome to Rock Solid Families Podcast. This is Merle Hutchinson alongside of Linda Hutchinson. Hello, Linda. How are you today?
Besides technical issues, fine.
Yeah, my computer's acting very strange today, so I'm not sure. And on top of that, my mouse is hiding somewhere.
Well,
The lost mouse. I shall find you. I'll put a trap out tonight. I will get you.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. So we're still doing our questions.
Yep.
Ask us anything. Mm-hmm. And, there was a movie that came out. And so I think this question was spurred on by this movie.
Yeah.
And so let me read the question if I can.
Yeah.
Okay. It is, what is adoption and fostering really like? I have recently watched the movie Sound of Hope. I know that you have adopted children, and that's referring to you and I.
Yep.
We are considering adoption as well. What is your experience with adoption and fostering? Ooh.
Yeah, I actually liked this question because it made sure that we had homework to do and go see the movie. So it turned into a little date night.
Yeah,
which was nice because we had not seen the movie.
Right.
And so getting a chance to watch it ourselves and to kind of see where they're coming from. So a plug first and foremost before we start. If you have not seen the movie Sound of Hope, we really encourage you to. We'll give a little background in a second, but it's a true story.
Yep.
And it's a powerful story. And it was so funny, and I'm kind of choking up thinking about it, but we left the theater and we saw some friends, including a young adult man, and he was like, I cried through the almost the whole thing, And so it was pretty powerful, and the fact that he would even be willing to admit that, right? But it was just really cool. And he was sitting there next to his girlfriend. But it was a really good show. And it was the story.
Well, in a nutshell, it's a small town in East Texas, Possum Trot. And they essentially, there was a preacher, W.C. Martin, and his wife, Donna. And they, she had lost her mother, and she was kind of dealing with some depression from it, and kind of like, what's the purpose here in life? And I think the Holy Spirit spoke to her and said, your purpose is to do what your mother was always doing, and that was raising and taking care of kids. And with that, she was spurred on to learning about the whole adoption process, really, I think, through mostly child services, like these kids that really need a home. And so, long story short, we won't get into all of the details, but 22 families ending up adopting 77 kids in Possum Trot. And at one point in time, the social worker there said, we don't have any more kids to get out into the adoption world. And so anyway,
it was so funny though. It was so funny though. But we'll get to our sponsors first.
Before we get into that, let's do our sponsors. Then we can really get into all of this. Okay. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Maxwell Construction, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and Hoosier Ice House. And so thanks again to all of those guys. Greatly appreciate the work that they do, as well as the community that they believe in terms of a healthy, strong community with strong values. And so thanks to you guys.
And a couple just reminders. One is that our Families Rock class, which is a monthly class, we repeat monthly at the fourth Saturday of every month, is going to be coming up on July 27th. If you're listening to this in the archives, 2024, and we are doing it at the Lawrenceburg Firehouse on Tate Street in Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Right.
And so if you live in the greater Cincinnati tri-state, we would love for you to join us. This is really a class, whether you're married, a divorced, a single parent, maybe you're co-parenting or you're a blended family. It really talks about those conflicts that we have as parents and in a family and how we work through them to really create this unity and this strength in our families. And so we would love for you to be a part of that.
Yeah. Also, we do have coming up our celebration that we're having, and so you should have received a mailing, and we're asking you to RSVP this week.
If you're a donor.
If you're a donor.
If you're a partner of ours,
yeah. And so if you've got that, please, just a little prompt there, RSVP. We're putting things together, and that'll be here before you know it.
Yeah. So I got to tell a story about this because I felt like I was having a little deja vu moment when Donna Martin felt called to adopt and really going through the foster care system. So she had taken this class. Actually, it was before she even took the class. She kind of sprung it on her husband that she was thinking about this. And he wasn't really on board. He was like, what?
Yeah, I could relate to him.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
And the way he handled that was like, what? You lost your mind? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we're going to talk about that, but it didn't take long for Donna's passion for adoption to become infectious. And really the entire church began to rally around her and that family and helping kids find a good home. And so it's really a true story, but it's supposed to be a reminder that there is so many children in need right here in our community. You don't have to go across the ocean or go to a different country. It is literally in your backyard where there are children in need of a home, a forever home.
Yeah, and it speaks to the idea of helping those that are truly innocent. A lot of people have a play in their circumstance. Whether you've gone bankrupt or you're in a divorce, you probably had a part in that. And, these are kids that probably had little to do with why they're in the situation they're in.
Yeah.
And so that is that innocence. And so, we are called to protect the orphans and the widows, and because of their innocence, they didn't choose to be in that. And so I think that's one of the things that really struck Donna, and I think that's one of the things that struck WC when he actually saw some of these, like, oh my gosh, look what that poor little guy is going through, and he had nothing to do with it. And so there's an instinct that comes in of protection. We need to get out there and protect. And I think the only way that doesn't grab you is if you simply don't watch it. You look the other way, because when you see a little guy, they show some of those little guys that are, they don't show all of the nasty because, but your brain can figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And you see the little guy crying or whatever, and the yelling in the house, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Yeah, James 1:27 says, religion that is pure and defiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. And so that's pure religion. That is an understanding who God is in our life and how he wants us to show up in other people's lives. And that takes sacrifice. It takes a decision of, I'm going to put myself on the back burner in the hopes of helping someone else and what I want or what I need. And so God is calling us to take care of those orphans and widows.
But before you get all full of your heart thing, and this is another reason why I think you and I like the movie, because right now you could think of this like, it's always been on my heart. I would just love to do that. But the movie then moves past all of the heartwarming things, the initial surface emotions, and it gets into the difficulty. Every kid that are in these situations comes with their own backstory, and a lot of it is a lot of garbage and baggage, and so it comes into your home, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But the movie does a great job of showing, like, here you had your family, you had everything, and it was moving in a certain direction, and then you bring in these new kiddos, and it rocked their world.
I think that we're kind of assuming that everyone that's listening knows our story, and so just in a quick nutshell, we have 5 children, ranges 33 to 16. Our 2 oldest sons were out of high school and out of our home when we were presented with the opportunity to foster to adopt 3 more children, and they were children in your school building. They had been in the foster care system for 5 years. They had been in 5 different schools and 5 different homes over those 5 years. And so when they came to when they came to our family, they were 11, 10, and 7. But they were about ready to be split up. They were about ready to be sent out of the area.
Into a new fostering situation.
Because they really were into that hard to adopt age. And so, we just wanted you to know a little bit about our backstory as to why we're even being asked this question, right?
Yeah. So I think we went through and put together some points to consider.
Yeah.
All right, some points to consider. That yes, your heart has to be involved for sure. If your heart's not moving over this process, you definitely shouldn't do it, right? But your brain better be involved too. And one of the very first things is, you have to be all in. You can't be, well, we'll try it out for a while. And I think that was always my reservation. And you were the one you were quick to say yes, and I was slower because I always wanted to have a foot out the door, right? Like I've always struggled with commitment in my life.
Yeah.
And so
you did.
I always want to have an exit plan.
Actually, until we met, you hadn't dated anybody over 6 months.
Yeah, I knew how to get out quickly.
When I hit the 6-month mark, I was like, yes, I'm in.
But the adoption, and I didn't like the idea of fostering, and fostering is awesome, but I didn't like the idea of fostering because of what I thought it would do to rack kids' brains. I just started to get close to these people. But again, there is a great place for fostering, so I'm not saying no to that.
A huge need.
Yeah, but for us, I was like, I don't want to get into that emotional back and forth. So, but once we made the decision, it was like, we're not turning back.
Yeah.
We're not turning back. This is where we are, and let's go.
We've told this story before, but we were actually both at church, and there was a message and a song, and it was one of those defining moments where you and I looked at each other and we're bawling our eyes out, and it was like, holy cow, what's going on?
Our son Zach was there.
He was home from college, right?
Yeah, and he was next to me, and I'm kind of bawling there in church, and he looked at me, he's like, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, we'll talk later.
But it was really that realization of, okay, we're burning the ships, we're all in. And so the very first point you brought up, Hun, is that you both, husband and wife, mom and dad, both have got to be all in, because you are playing with the child's life, right? And you're playing with the heart. And so we need to make sure that we are giving them the most stable, secure, forever home possible. We can't return it. It's not like a 60-day, which, by the way, the foster care system knows, the child services knows how hard this can be. So they don't let you commit until 6 months in. They say this is a process, that it is a foster situation for 6 months, and then the process to adopt occurs, just for that reason.
Yeah. The second point that I thought we should address with this question is, sooner rather than later, take off your rose-colored glasses. And what I mean by that is, when you first see the baby or the kid that you are interested in, you will see the cute, you will see the good, you will see, your brain will just imagine how you can be the savior of their life. There's a lot of things that, like, I could quench the thirst here of everybody. And that has to be there for you to even get started. But it's a little bit like lust instead of love. It's an initial sort of thing, but the lust kind of wears off. And then you have to we know that love is an actual choice, and it's a process. And so that's the same thing here. Like, you got to get those rose-colored glasses and tune them in a little bit better to realize, no, there's going to be difficulty. And, what am I saying? Nothing's easy, nothing's cheap. And so the sooner you get the idea of, like, we're going to have challenges, I know I'm going to wrap my head around those.
Yeah. Hun, this movie was a great reminder of that, because it definitely showed the emotional toil that it took for the child and for the adoptive family and for the extended families. And the other movie that I remember going to and thinking it was going to be a ha-ha funny movie was Instant Family. That was a comedy about fostering to adopt. Yeah. And I remember crying in that movie, like, holy cow, that hit close to home, you know, because it does take the rose-colored glasses off and remind you that this isn't going to be like, oh, it's just a little storybook, story. It's real life, and it comes with a lot of heartache and a lot of hard things. And so I still to this day say, fostering to adopt our 3 youngest was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Oh yeah,
and it continues to be a challenge. And by the way, our children are 2019 and 16 now, so this is 9 years later. But it's been one of the greatest challenges of my life.
Yeah. Kind of running off of the back of the rose-colored glasses, the next point we put in here was, examine your expectations and then lower them. And what I mean by that, the expectations of everyone. Like, and this is where this came from in my own mind. we said, and I in my own mind I said yes. I had it like a vision of, okay, like in 6 months we'll all be together, we'll all be family, like everybody will know all the stuff about everybody, and we won't miss a beat. And 4 years later, we were like, when is that going to happen?
Yeah.
Because you're constantly learning things about each other, about how you handle things, how the kids handle things. And sometimes you just, you give that dog look like, huh?
We're
Like,
still
what?
dealing with that?
Like, is this really an issue?
I do feel sorry for our kids. I feel sorry for all 5 of them because, we are in this profession, right? We work with couples and families, individuals every day. We work with teens. And so I can't imagine how hard it is to live under our roof. And it takes me back to my mom, who was a nurse at the ER. And I remember she would constantly be, giving us sermons about how we have to wear clean underwear and, not ride our bike in the street, because she was at the front line of the casualties when we don't make good decisions. And so I kind of feel like our kids are in that same boat where it's like, holy cow, our parents are counselors. This is great,
Yeah.
Makes it hard.
Yeah.
So, but the expectations, you're right. We had to get realistic of
Got to get
it's
realistic.
not going to be rosy and it's not going to be perfect. And our kids are humans and we're humans and we're going to blow it. And there was a couple instances in that movie, Sound of Hope, where they're losing it. They're having the kids are having tantrums.
Might have seen myself.
The adults are having tantrums. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there before. So
yeah. The fourth point we just thought we should address is, obviously, if you listen to the show at all, we come from a Christian faith-based background, and you have to ask the question: is God in the middle of your decision? Because we found out quickly, and I think you're going to find out, you don't have the knowledge. You don't have the wisdom. I'm sorry. I don't care how many books you read.
Yeah.
I don't care how smart you think you are.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have what it takes in and of yourself to get through all of the different things you're going to experience, most likely in this situation. And so, there have been so many times, hon, where we've said, I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go. And we just prayed. Right?
Yeah.
We just pray and just say, we got to give this away.
Yeah. So constantly inviting God into the picture to guide and reveal our next steps, and honestly to extend grace to our kids, to each other, to ourselves. God is in the grace business. And so if we are not an extender of grace, then we're really not showing the light of Christ and the grace of Christ to others.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Before you jump in, you should evaluate your resources. What and who do you have that's going to be part of your team? The movie points right out the idea of money.
Yeah.
They took on all these kids, and there were multiple families saying, now that our grocery bill is this, and now that our water uses is this, utilities were being shut down. And maybe that's an issue, maybe it's not. We live in a pretty generous area here, but these are all the things to consider. How are you going to provide? And then I think another thing too, hon, like the human resources behind you, your church family, your own family, your friends. Like, are they going to get behind you, or is everybody going to look at you and go, well, you were an idiot for doing this. You can do it on your own. Yeah,
you definitely need a support system, but I would push back on the material resources, because I hear that excuse a lot. And honestly, especially out of the foster care system, I'm not saying you should go into it for the money, but money should never be the reason, because honestly, God provided. God has provided for us the last 9 years. And, it definitely was not an issue, because we just trusted in Him. We trusted in Him, and we were provided resources through the foster care system. And so I really would love for you to pursue more, even if you think money could be an issue, because it really ends up not being that big of a deal. And when you're doing it for the right reasons, not to make money, obviously, but when you do it for the right reasons, God provides and God multiplies the resources needed, especially if you do have a church home and a healthy community that comes around you.
Yeah, if you try to do all the math right up front, you start tallying up college cost and medical costs, you wouldn't even jump into the arena. But God does provide, and so you go with it.
Yeah.
The 6th point was you're going to have naysayers. You're going to have people that shake their head. The movie actually even showed that there were a couple that were just going, you guys do not know what you're getting into. In other words, and when you don't know what you're getting into, you're going to make a bigger mess than what is already there. And that's kind of the thing. And what I'd say to that is don't just ignore that. Because that a lot of times there's good points.
Yeah.
Like some of the people who questioned us, some of their things have been true.
Yeah. Well, and you also were coming from your own experience, hon, because your parents had done a little fostering, and you had some bad experiences where somebody's hiding knives and running away, and so it kind of plants those seeds of doubt and fear into your mind about, oh my gosh, that's going to be our experience. And so we all come with our different perspectives and our different experiences, and so we just got to trust God that, okay, no matter what you heard, you are going to have naysayers, and especially if there's somebody you trust in your yard, then you're going to listen to them. But at the end of the day, this is between you and me and God, and what God is calling us to do. And so, once we made that decision, we couldn't turn back.
Yeah, you can't turn back, and you just go, and this is kind of the new normal. And you don't think about, well, what would have happened if we didn't? You just go with it. So
we would have been empty nesters on a deserted island somewhere, having their. Just kidding.
This next point I broke up into a lot of different sections because now, hon, this is really where we are, and that is we have found that there are lots of different seasons of the adoption process. We have seasons. We talk about seasons all the time, the 4 seasons of parenting, but there's been seasons in just this whole process of coming through. Like when we first welcomed our kids in, when you've got your biological kids and you've got them at the cradle, right? You birth them. There are seasons, but you just have a connection, right? We even talk about the bonding of parents and all that. And so we got our kids when they were 11, 10, and 7, and they already had significant memories and bonding with their biological parents.
Yeah.
And so those were seasons that we were clueless about. We didn't quite understand that.
Yeah.
So I think initially it was really challenging that first season because everybody's testing the waters. We were testing the waters like, well, does this work? Does that work?
Yeah.
And they're testing the waters. Our kids were testing it.
Yeah.
I remember our youngest said, why are you guys doing this? He was still head back, and he was a little 7-year-old going, why are you doing this? Why did you let us move in with you? He was not ready to just open up.
Well, plus you were their school counselor. So
that was really
weird. Even weird. You were Mr. Hutchinson to them. I do remember, though, hon, walking into a Walmart, a local Walmart, and walking down an aisle, and 2 out of the 3 kids did a complete 360 or 180 and started going the other way. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, we can't go down that aisle. We can't go down that aisle. And here was this intense fear of our youngest too. And it was because somebody in that aisle was in their past and they had been in their home and they were kind of a scary person in their life and they think they had stolen from them. And so, here we are. I have no clue who this person is. And so they've got memories and experiences that trigger for them stuff. And so, I have to, like you said, this was the initial season of just really learning how to work through those very difficult memories and experiences that they had that created quite traumatizing things for them. So we had to get through that.
Yeah. But then you do kind of move into another season where they are more comfortable calling you by the names that you've all agreed to use, like mom or dad or each of our kids, their names, and you start using it and the patterns develop. And so there starts to be a level of comfort, like I know where I'm protected, I know where I'm secure, I know where I get food. And so that's a little bit of a comforting season where there was a little bit of settling.
Although it was hard because our children at one point had 3 moms and 3 dads because they had their biological parents, who are still alive. They had their foster parents who they had just left the house and moved into our house. And then we were the adoptive parents. And they called all 3 sets mom and dad. Yeah. So when they said mom, I didn't know which one they were talking about. So that was hard too. How confusing is that?
Well, honey, this is kind of where we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, after we've moved through these years, we've gone through quite a bit through their schooling and everything. And now, they're back into having a a good relationship. We think it's a good relationship with their biological father. And in some ways, it feels a little bit like a divorce situation where they desire a relationship with their dad. And that seems to be good, but that means they're not with us, right? And so there's this back and forth. And so this is a whole nother season that you and I are adjusting to. And I don't even know if the kids are thinking about it, but we're like, okay, this is kind of weird. They're both at Dad's house, which is good. We like that.
They're choosing to be there instead of with us.
Yeah, because they're trying to catch up on time too. They talk about, gosh, this is what my dad does now, and this is that, because they're filling in a lot of gaps from those years.
Yeah, and I told the kids just recently, I don't want you to have to choose. That's not our goal. We want you to have the love of a bunch of different people, and we want it to be healthy love, right? We want it to be for the right reasons and the right ways, and so that's what we're searching for and seeking, is that healthy relationship for them, whether it be from grandmas or aunts or parents or siblings or whatever. And so they have a lot of siblings that, in our house, we literally have two by the same name. So we have a big Nick and little Nick. And so, how confusing is that for some people to understand? But they also have a lot of other steps and halves of siblings that, make it kind of tough and complex.
Yeah. So, I'm sure there's other questions. And as we kind of wind through the end of this, we would never tell anyone you should absolutely adopt or you should absolutely not. I think it is one of those things that's a very personal decision. I think it should be very weighed out and thought about and prayed over. If it's a spontaneous, we're going to do this, I think you might be really hurting everyone. So I don't know. I don't know what you think about that, hun, but I would never say absolutely you should adopt or absolutely not.
You're right. It's a very personal decision. And like we have already kind of said, I could not push that on you if that was not something that you felt ready to do, because I think you would have resented me. I think there would have been some bitterness and some anger.
Especially when things are going bad, right? When you're having a bad day.
Because we're going to have those bad days, right? And so it's got to take two, and it's got to be personal. And I really would rather you not really just listen to all the naysayers. I really, in our time, we really spent a lot more time with a very small circle of trusted friends and family, and then we took it to God. And so we really kept praying over it, and we didn't use it as an excuse, but we wanted to make sure, like you said, once we pulled that trigger, we're not going back. And so we wanted to make sure. So if you are considering fostering to adopt or fostering your adoption, we would just say, who are your circle of influence, the people that you listen to and go to, that circle of trust? Go to those people and talk to them hey, this is something we've been praying about and thinking about. And so kind of been bouncing it with them, right? But every time you have those kind of conversations, go back to God's word, because ultimately that's our guide, right? That's what God's calling us to do. And I felt like it was laid on my heart years and years and years before we even had children, period.
Not mine.
I know it wasn't. And I think it was because of those experiences that you had either in the school system teaching or growing up. But that was something that I think was the Holy Spirit laying on me, and it just never left me. It never left me. And so who would have thought 30 years later, no, it wasn't quite 30 years after we got married.
Close, we'll be 37, so it's 28 years.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought we would have been empty nesters? And I mean, I was thinking it was going to be when our kids were young.
I had new bikes I was going to buy.
So never underestimate God's power to influence your decisions and your family, what it looks like. So there's a ton of children out there who need a forever home, who need to know the love of Christ. And if you as a believer can be one of those forever homes, then I really encourage you to keep pursuing it. We went to the classes, we had the background check. I kept waiting for the roadblock, right? And it never came. And so it was kind of like, okay, let's keep moving forward. And
can I just say about the classes? I was like, oh, geez. as teachers, we're like one of the worst students.
We
right,
are.
to sit in classes. And I will say, at least in our area, we're in Southeast Indiana, the classes were fantastic.
They were super necessary.
Well, they were very real.
Yes.
Like they are talking a lot like Linda and I are trying to talk to you today. They were not putting up rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
They were almost trying to say, we're going to be so real with you.
Yeah.
And if you on the other side of this still are okay, then maybe you're ready to think more.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I did too.
Versus like, oh yeah, you're all ready to go. You're going to do it. So,
Yeah.
and wrapping things up, I'm going to catch you off guard. So
Okay.
it's easy to think of what you think you can provide for these kids. Oh, I'm going to give them a good home. They're going to get lots of opportunities that maybe they didn't have or weren't going to get. But they also change you. Like we are different people now on the other side of this than we were on the front side. How do you think adoptions changed or impacted you? Like what impact has it had on you?
Well, I think I'm a better coach, counselor, and parent because of it. Because I really thought I knew what I was doing, and I don't. And I've had to eat humble pie and ask for their forgiveness many, many times because I've lost it. And I really didn't do that very often with our oldest two. And so that was just a reminder to me is that we all have our breaking points and we all have our limits and we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. And all of my weaknesses have seemed to be percolating out. And so I've learned a lot. I've been humbled. I've learned what grace is, and I have also learned what heartache looks like. And I'm saddened by what our kids experienced. I didn't know that kind of stuff was out there, and it's opened my eyes, and this movie does a great job of opening eyes without being too vulgar and, descriptive. You definitely, like you said, you can read between the lines of what some of the things they've experienced.
Yeah, in the same vein, hon, I think humility has come to me. I think you think kind of our older sons were just good guys, but, not just that. We knew them from birth, right?
And they were easy.
And they were easy, and they would still say that we were not always perfect, and they were right. We screwed up with them. I got a little message from our older son today about some funny stuff. But yeah, there's so many puzzles that happen with our adopted kids that you just go, I just don't know where this is going to go. And you go to prayer and you just say, and you ask for forgiveness. Gosh, the number of times that I've lost it. And then afterwards I go, I know I said the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing, So that part's been challenging, but I think on the other side, it reminds you of the grace that you have to have. It reminds you of the empathy that you have to have. So I think we're moving towards being better people on the other side of this. We're trying not to be jaded or cynical, which can sometimes be hard because you think, oh, well, none of this is going to work or whatever. So trying to keep that at bay and realize that, no, we're all working through this. So
yeah, it's helped me cling to God more. And like I said before about being a better coach, I think that because some of this is out of my control with, the other family members and things in their life that is not in our control, it has really helped me to trust in God more and also have more empathy for those that are going through, whether it be a divorce or death or, betrayal or co-parenting, because I kind of feel like you said a divorce situation where some co-parenting is going on even still today. And so it's helped me to humble myself and to work together for the good of our family and for the good of our kids. So, yeah.
So we hope that we maybe at least gave some things to think about. We hope that this question was something that if you're in that thinking process or have ever thought about it, maybe we've given you something. We always would definitely entertain a phone call or whatever if you're thinking, well, hey, I'd like to run this by you. We don't claim to be experts. We just claim to have walked through an experience, and so maybe some of that can shine through. And part of our challenge might be that if it really is something that's weighing on your heart, and by the way, your heart has to be in this, we talked about, but your heart can't be the only thing in it. So if it's really on your heart, then I would just recommend that take the next step and check out local adoption agencies, or we went through child services just because of the kiddos that we were working with were in child services. And if you're still interested, you can take the classes and you don't have to adopt or foster at all. Right. You can take them. In fact, they invite you in to say, just get a taste. And so in your area, there will be classes that are offered by the county, and sit in on them. They're typically in an evening or a Saturday morning, and sit in on them and just see what your heart and your brain do.
It's kind of interesting because you do have some control over who comes into your home. So like, you don't have to have a baby. You don't have to have 3 like we did. You don't have to have them at 11, 10, and 7. It could be a toddler, a boy to match your other, preschool son, or, a daughter. I got my first daughter, my one and only daughter, through adoption. So otherwise, I have 4 boys. So thankfully, God blessed me with a daughter. I just had to import her from, anyway, just you have some control over that, and you can say no. So that's something that is in your control there, that you just let God lead there and see what he does.
Yeah. All right. So if you have any questions, you can get us at 812-576-7625. Again, we ask you, check out what we're doing. You can check out our website at rocksolidfamilies.org. We greatly appreciate you guys listening to shows. If this particular show hits you, or you think of somebody when you hear the show, please share it. Give us 5-star ratings and get us up on the search engine. So we just greatly appreciate that. We appreciate our sponsors. We appreciate Maxwell Construction, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and the Hoosier Ice House. So I think that pretty much wraps us up.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to the Rock Solid Families podcast, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Rock Solid Families wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. Casey's has grown to be one of the largest and most unique garden centers and gift shops in the Cincinnati tri-state area. Whether you are looking to take on that next landscape project or simply add a little home decor to your house, Casey's has you covered. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Call them today at 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home. Rock Solid Families wants to thank Maxwell Construction for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast. For over 30 years, Maxwell Construction has been a leader in turning dreams into realities, building schools, banks, restaurants, and many other commercial and public facilities. Maxwell Construction has made it their priority to not just build buildings, but to build into their community. So if you have any construction needs, call them at 812-537-2200.
Rock Solid Families would like to thank Hoosier Ice House for being a proud sponsor of the Rock Solid Families podcast. In the heart of historic Lawrenceburg, Indiana, the Ice House is at the corner of Vine and High Streets. The historic building evokes a feeling of comfort with spacious indoor and outdoor dining, a large bar, and comfortable dining areas. Large enough to host parties, yet intimate enough to feel like your favorite neighborhood restaurant. So thank you again for the Hoosier Ice House for sponsoring the Rock Solid Families podcast.